the meeting to order. Remote attendance pursuant to state executive orders 2020-7 and 2020-18, which temporarily suspend the in-person presence requirements and eliminate the limitation on remote access to the Illinois Open Meetings Act. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the board is not requiring physical attendance at the meeting and will allow all board members to attend this meeting remotely and fully participate remotely. Okay. Has everybody looked at the agenda? Is it all right with everybody? Or do we have to switch anything around? No? All right. I will take a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. Kate?
Yes.
Samantha?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Oh, and Carl?
Yes.
Here's Carl.
Oh, is Carl here?
Yep. He just
He
came
is?
up for you.
Did he say yes?
Yes, the vote is yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't even see him. I'm sorry. There you are. I got to get this up on the right deal here. Let's see.
I know I had it on, it kept populating as a view.
There.
And so,
I got this light in the background. I never know how to do this light thing. Okay. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes. All right. Well, then I am going to accept the motion to present.
I'll move. I'll
Susan's
second.
moving.
I'm moving.
Okay, Samantha.
Yeah.
All right, Susan.
Yes.
Samantha.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
Carl.
Yes.
He's there. All right. Okay. Do we have any written communications from the public?
We do not.
By the way, Rick.
We do not.
No, I said nice background. By the way,
Ah, thank you.
I don't see any dead Michigan players back there.
How do you know it's a background?
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Sure. You got a side hustle, right?
Yeah.
All right. So under new business, do we have any personnel update?
I do. I'd like to introduce Michelle Whitehead. At the lower part of my screen, Michelle is the new administrative secretary. Michelle comes to us from Decatur Memorial Hospital, where her most recent position there was administrative aide to the executive administrative aide. Is that correct, Michelle? You are muted,
You're on
Michelle.
mute.
Okay, I was an administrative assistant, executive administrative assistant for Decatur Memorial Hospital for the last 4 or 5 years. So thank you.
So
All right.
welcome aboard, Michelle.
Welcome.
And
you.
she'll be joining us for all of our board meetings.
Exciting.
We also will be, we haven't got official word from Civil Service Commission, but we will have a couple of promotions, in-house promotions on the civil service level. We've got, I won't say since it hasn't been made official yet, but one of our clerk ones will become a clerk 2 soon, and one of our pages will become a clerk 1. So we're very happy about that as well. We're not going to backfill the vacated positions, as they're simply promotions.
All right. Well, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. And under new business number 2 is building use policy. It's action.
The only recommendation I have is to capitalize city librarian. Aside from that,
I was also going to recommend that.
I don't have any recommendations, so I don't know if you guys had seen anything that.
Add also capitalization of library. The library maintains the first sentence, basically. Anytime it says library as talking about the Decatur Public Library.
I can do that.
Okay. Do we need to go ahead and vote on this?
As far as content, I had no recommendations.
Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on this, Rick?
So we're just reviewing this? Is that what we're doing? Because we have to
Yeah,
review it
every 3, I don't like anything to go more than 3 years without a look. What I would ask is that you recommend, if you don't think it needs any changes, that you recommend that it simply be passed for another 3 years without change, aside from the grammatical changes.
Are you making that motion, Susan?
Yes. Yes, yes.
You'll make the motion to recommend it to the full board. I'll second that.
Okay. Susan?
Yes.
Samantha?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot myself. Michael? Yes. Include me in all those other ones, Robert. I forgot about that. Okay, and then we all got copies of Rick's goals. Everybody get that? Get the copy of it?
Of what?
Yeah, I left the last one blank in case you wanted to add anything. And some of those might, and a couple of these things might not seem like much, but they will, I think, have an impact. But I just kind of see it as a conversation starter as much as anything. In the past, it's not you guys, but I brought lists of goals to the board and left with an entirely different list of goals. So I thought we had to start somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's something we had talked about for next year, like any merit increases or evaluation, judging based on the goals that we decide on now. So, so I like all of these. So I'm trying to think. Well, we had
on number 2, workplace, organize and maintain personal workspace. Are you messy, Rick, or what?
Extremely so.
Have you seen
I
this
think he's
office?
got a background going on.
I was gonna say, oh my God.
That's the background.
Yeah.
That's also one of my professional goals this year, so I appreciate that.
It's and I've done better in the past, but it's time to get it and keep it and having something like this to sort of hold my feet to the fire would be useful to me. But honestly, I think there's an impact on efficiency.
Can I ask one question?
You can ask as many as you want.
Assuming COVID does disappear at some point, and is there some type of community outreach where, I don't know, where you go out into the community?
That's a good point, Michael.
Like
Yeah.
advocating. That was actually going to be one of the things I was talking about, advocating within the community for the library.
And maybe partnerships with other organizations.
Well, it depends on how you want to measure it. We a couple of years ago when we first looked at this, we had 18 partnerships. Now there's over 20, like in the low 20s. We do. We're working on partnerships, and also it's kind of an outreach thing with some long-term care facilities, with the opiate recovery center over at the Crossing. But obviously, as there are two different things. There's the outreach, and then there's the advocacy in the community. And outreach is something that takes quite a bit of labor, and that one is a little more challenging. But as far as getting out in the community and advocating, I've been off the speakers circuit for a good year, like everybody else. But yeah, I don't know how you go about making that happen. I've generally just kind of taken whatever invitations I get, and I go and talk. Some years there's a lot, and some years there's less. So
Are you Are you a member of any organizations like Rotary or anything
I
like that?
was in Rotary, and because of the reason I was in Rotary, and which was at the behest of this board and the fact that the library was paying for it, I have left since the pandemic. But as I said, it's really because it's at the public cost, and once I can get back there and interact with people again, and I'll feel comfortable with that in a few weeks, because I've been out of pure luck. I got the first vaccination, and I'll have the second one in a couple of weeks. I mean, they went months without having anything, and yet we were still paying. So I thought I'd back out until it's going again.
And that's fine. Like, I agree with that. I think creating a culture of advocacy might be one of your goals. So it's not just you. I mean, it's like, everyone should be an advocate. Like, we are all advocates for the library. All of the staff, they're advocates for the library, whether they mean to be or not. Like even our friends boards, because like there are people who are involved in other organizations. So I think having that culture, like where we're kind of talking to our friends and family about the resources that are available at the library, and our staff are doing the same thing. And I'm sure like they are, because they're, they live it every day. But even encouraging, people to the extent that they can to join and participate as library, like library advocates, I guess. Does that make sense? Like that was one of the things I learned from ILA was your staff are also, like if they join an organization or a church group or something like that, them talking to those people is helpful as well.
Yeah, I guess it's just, if it's going to be one of my professional goals, let's just talk about how we, what the expectations are and how we measure it. Whether, in a year when I come back, how are we going to know that I did what you want here?
Yes, no, absolutely. Like make it measurable, and like it's the smart goals, of course.
I do think though, when Rotary starts back up, I think that's an important.
Yep.
And you tell people what's going on in the library, and then they hear it, and then they tell their folks what's going on in the library, especially if it's something that interests them.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm happy. I'm sure I can get Mr. Sorensen to sponsor me again.
Yeah, Rotary's not that expensive. It's
no, it's not
120 a quarter or something.
It's more than that. It's 2 something a quarter, but
I just think it's important to be out there. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
I agree with that. I think it's important to, did the board not want to pay for it, or just?
Well, it was, I was emailed by a former board member who is on Rotary, and is like, you sure you still want to keep spending taxpayer dollars on this, and and I thought about it. I talked to Samantha about it.
Yeah.
And I hemmed and hawed for a while, but finally I did resign and told them I'd love to come back when normalcy returns, or even even close to it.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot of members, as has every other civic organization in the last year.
Right. Right.
So that's a great point, though. So how, like, even if you don't like, creating a culture of advocacy, like how are we going to measure the others as well? And I know this is a starting point, but it's, just something to think about. Because all these others are kind of like, like they don't have a dedicated time, they're just things you're working on. So.
Okay, but the number one says including a development a tool to measure.
And that's something I'm, I'm struggling with. I mean, the work has already kind of begun on this, but I'm not sure how we do measure it beyond, hey, I think we've got some workplace cultural issues. We know that we've gotten better on this over the last few years, but I think it's time to take it to the next level. And everything I'm telling you here is based on just what it looks like to me and how I feel. I don't have a tool to say this is how I know it was bad. This is how I know it's gotten better, and this is how. We did do an internal survey several years ago, but it wasn't really just about workplace culture or job satisfaction. It was a little broader than that, but we got some information on that.
Well, I guess that could be a starting point, is do
Yeah,
some
that's
kind
what I
of a
was gonna
survey and then,
Yeah.
make some determination from that and work,
It's just finding the right questions
Right.
to ask is going to be important. But there's plenty of information out there, and I can, if you want to set some timelines on that, I'm happy to look at, coming to you guys next month or May with a tool, and then implementing it and seeing what we get, and then saying, okay, here's what we got. Where do we want to get this to?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that'd be.
I think these, I'm not good with goals. Let me start with that, number one, in my own business. But they seem a little vague, like strategic plan, these are things that we have to measure, like at the end of the year. Like, how do we look at this list and we go, okay, has Rick done this, 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 and this? I don't know what begin work on a strategic plan means. Does that mean you're going to, I'm not trying to be writing the front page of it, or is there going to be a complete strategic plan done? You know what I mean?
Right.
It just is helping the next board or the next individuals or whoever's going to be on the board measure these things when they go to evaluate.
Yeah, and I think we'd have to set some benchmarks of where we want to be by when. This strategic plan has the current strategic plan that we're working under has more or less been forgotten due to COVID. And it was due to expire at the end of this year anyway. So kind of the idea when we hired the consultants last time, their idea was, look, we want to teach you. Part of this is we want to teach you guys how to write the strategic plan yourself in a process, so that you don't have to hire us and pay us $15,000 every 5 years or whatever it was. But it kind of depends on. The problem with that one is one of the goals. It is, I think, a little bit COVID dependent. If we're back to normal in the fall, then it makes sense. Let's get started and start setting some timelines. If not, I'm not sure how much any strategic plan, or maybe you do a really short strategic plan. Maybe you do a 1-year strategic plan instead of a 5-year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The goals that you are telling us to measure you by are what we're going to measure you by. And I'm not saying these goals aren't good goals. I'm just saying, are these goals that we can measure you by the end of the year?
Yeah. And it is a starting point. I think the third one is something that we can measure. So the second one, I don't know if you want to give us a tour of your office, and I don't think we need that. But
and it could be when I was a psychology major is what we call operationalized. So how do you turn a concept into something that is measurable? And it could be that each year a complete purge of records through the Illinois Local Records Archive is completed. so that we at least have, make sure that we're not keeping things we don't need to keep. And I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. I know it's something I need to get done. Whether we have it as something you guys measure me by or not, it's gonna be a goal of mine. I'll know when it's organized.
Uh-huh.
So I think, do you have enough to kind of go back and try to review like what,
Yeah, I think I can. I just wanted to make sure that that these are, even concepts that you guys think are worthwhile. And
Well, I certainly wouldn't want any more than this. I think, I
Right.
think 4 or 5 goals is plenty, maybe even too much. So I think I would take out number 2. I think that's a personal goal for you. And, unless
Right.
it's something really presenting a problem, I don't really see that the board needs, that needs to be a goal. So I would just take that out and you can just make that a personal goal. I would put something in there, but I don't know. I'm like Michael, I don't really know how to word it. Something about, once again, engaging the community,
like, I mean, even if it's just reaching out
Right.
reaching out to organizations to give talks, like, I
right,
mean,
or
maybe you have
something,
specific
and then maybe
examples.
the measurable could just be, I
let me ask you this.
spoke at 5, organizations this year.
Well,
I
see-
am a member of this, and this organization, something like that.
And that's why we have these conversations, because 2 years ago I put those as my goals, and they were shot down with prejudice, as there's nothing about quality in that. There's nothing about impact. There's nothing about, but I understand, and I'm like Michael said, it's not my, I struggle with this too. But what about this? I mean, one of the things that and I don't even know if this is a feasible idea. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is like working on a Decatur Public Library Speakers Bureau. So in other words, have something available to all civic organizations saying, here is who at Decatur Public Library can come speak at your organization and about what.
That'd be great.
That's a great idea.
That's a great resource.
If you want, you want the overall overview, big picture, you engage me, perhaps you engage Robert. If you want about children's services, perhaps you engage Alyssa or Amanda, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, like, because ultimately we want these to be, I mean, useful for you and for us to evaluate. But ultimately we do want to make an impact. But I mean, even if you got feedback from the organizers, or like whoever was doing that, of how it went, or I mean, that would be your quality, and that would be more for you. And you could even put that in the city librarian's report, that you went and spoke at. You normally do, but
here's where I'd be uncomfortable with that, because that puts me at the mercy of that organization.
It does.
What if
exactly.
What if they we don't like to do that? It's now Romeo, Retired Old Men Eating Out. One of their members he would do that. He would on a napkin or an envelope, he would give you feedback right after your Robert, I think you've experienced that too. He was a retired doctor, I want to say. Very, very nice man, but he would give you really good feedback, and it was like, wow, this is actually helpful.
McGregor.
Yeah.
It was
What's that?
Mac McGregor. I think Susan probably knows Dixie's husband, ex-husband. Mac McGregor is the last name.
Is it Ron McGregor?
Yeah, I think it was McGregor. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Doc McGregor. Okay.
yeah. So
I mean,
I mean,
do we have it? And I don't know, and who knows? I forgot. You could have said it last week. You could have said it yesterday to me. do we have some kind of email list? I mean, reaching out could just be, here's what's going on in the library, and sending it out to our donor or our, the list, an email list saying these are things that are going on at the library.
Yeah, we send 14,000 people, well, it's almost about 15,000 now every month.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've even kind of, we're developing some more targeted emails too. So, folks who have, when we get the electronic magazines, let's make sure that we send it to everybody who's checked out a physical magazine in the last year. Here's something you might be interested in. But yeah, we send out.
People know that, and you send out emails that people know that they can donate money throughout the year.
Yeah.
Like now's a great time to give to the library. We're doing this project or what. I mean, I don't know how.
Honestly, I don't know whether we're including that in the newsletter, but it probably should be. And I would say donate to the foundation rather than us. But yeah, that's probably a really good thing to add to the newsletter.
But it could just be a series of emails and a little bit of marketing. I mean, it doesn't have to be super elaborate.
Well, something I used to do.
Speaking 4 times a year, if there's a possibility, joining 2 or 3 organizations and sending emails out a year.
Something I used to do, and it fell by the wayside, and I'd be happy to reintroduce it, is every Friday I sent out, here's what's coming up next week to City Council,
Yes.
Board.
I'm already sold.
City Council, Board, and there was another.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, Chamber.
Chamber would be a good one to send it to.
EDC, like I'm just, yeah, I think that'd be a great, especially with everything being so remote and like everybody's remote, and a lot of our programs are available on, on YouTube, or like they're being, filmed and recorded. So
why don't I take, what I'm gathering from this conversation and get you some things that are a little more objective and measurable, but for next month's committee meeting. Will that work?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rick, it's not an agonizing thing. It doesn't have to be super complex, just something that we can measure, you know what I mean? And I think on the review, I think outreach was one of the important things that people were asking about. Like that was one of the things, how was the outreach in the community? You may do some of those things that we don't even know about, but just adding to your list a little bit and being maybe a little bit more creative.
Yeah, and and to be honest, in the last year, there hasn't been much. So
right.
I mean, I used to when I was doing more of it, and it's probably fallen a little bit every year, gets a little bit less, at least with public speaking. I was on the other hand, I was at Rotary every week, and if there's something. I didn't every single week make an announcement, but if there was something that I thought would be of interest to those folks, I would make the announcement. So.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, then we'll look for those next month.
Yep.
Do we have? It says action. Do we have to do anything to not? I mean,
just in case you wanted to,
table it?
I put it action. If I put discussion, you can't take any action. So
we don't need to take action just because it says action, correct?
I don't think so. I mean, you
don't have to table it or anything like that.
You could choose to table it, but I don't think there's certainly not a legal question or even bylaws that I'm aware of.
Okay, no. Okay, we'll move on. We'll move on to the next item, which is the sexual harassment and retaliation policy.
The bylaws next, right?
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. It is. I scratched it out and went right to number 2. Yes, bylaws. So we got sent several.
Yeah, Samantha wanted to see some examples of others. So the first 2 examples that I gave you are from some library resources. One of the first one is from a website called WebJunk. I think it's from it's from I'll find it. I'm not sure what website it is, but the second one is from the Illinois Library Trustees Handbook. And the third one, it's not perfect because it's from a district library, but it's a library who Oak Park that we really, really like most of their policies. They're really good at getting to the gist of things and while keeping it fairly simple. Again, it's not a really good one-to-one correlation because they're a district library, so they're all elected officials that have levying power. I'm a fan of their work, so I put them on there. I'm not sure what you guys want to do with this. I mean, these are your bylaws, and it's if you're of the if you think things are working as they are, you don't have to do anything. But you haven't had a formal review of these in a few years. We've done some spot changes here and there. But one of the things that Samantha wanted, and I put some language in the email I sent to you guys, is she wanted to look at the possibility of, instead of just saying, you are the Friends of the Library liaison for the next 12 months, if there's other ways to approach that. And I certainly think you could.
I agree. I mean, I like that language. I think it's fine. Whoever the board president is can decide, who is going to go to the friends meeting monthly. If I, obviously I'm the president for another year. So if it's another person, they can decide, or, they can change it in the future. But I like the Oak Park Library one. I think it's a little bit more clear, like a working document versus like a kind of a legal document, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they do really good work as far as where policy is concerned. Everything's very clear, and I like the things that they do. Now, again, it's not a perfect analogy because district libraries work quite a bit differently than municipal libraries.
Yeah, because we don't have a treasurer, so
correct.
Right? Okay. I was like, I don't think that's a job.
Yeah, some municipal libraries do, but it's a largely not. I mean, it's similar to the secretary position. It's largely ceremonial.
When I was looking at the sample bylaws, I see like the Oak Park, these are kind of specific questions, and maybe I just don't know the answers because I haven't been around that long. But they provide for a couple other committees, like the nominating committee for the slate of officers. And then there's one that has a librarian search committee. I don't know how we've done that in the past. And I see that we have a provision where the president could create like an ad hoc committee, and maybe that's how we've done it in the past, which would be fine. I don't know if we like want to put, if we need specific language regarding both, but
I think the nominating committee language is very good and very useful. Hopefully you're not going to need a director search very often.
Right.
And that could be ad hoc, but 11 times in 140 years, something like that. So, but you could certainly put that language in there. But I do like spelling out that there will be a because every year when it comes time for election of officers, we do it differently. It'd be nice to have something spelled out.
Right. And I agree. I think the ad hoc committee would probably function as just, on the chance we need a new director, that's fine. But maybe for a nominating committee, it spells it out, and then it's kind of like a push to do it each year, so there's not confusion or we got to do it last minute.
So I like the way the Oak Park ones are kind of laid out. Like I like that the purpose is up front. Because I think our duties and responsibilities are on page 6. So I like that it kind of starts with that, and that's what, you know, like we know as trustees, like that's our job, like, and then we can move on to some of the other options. Let's see, or not options, but sections.
The other options of bylaws, you mean?
Yeah, I just meant sections, like,
Oh, those sections.
yeah, like.
Well,
so
Samantha,
if-
how do you want to proceed with this? Do you want to change ours to resemble Oak Park?
I honestly kind of, yes. I would say I kind of like I mean with some of the revisions like that, you know, we had kind of talked about. We have our friends, you know, friends liaison, our foundation liaison. We have our committees, which our committees are finance and properties and PPPR. So like, I mean,
So would we redo those? I mean, we would form like a committee insider committee or a couple people to redo those, or Robert and Rick would do those. Tell me how that
Here's
would
what
work.
I was going to propose based on
Okay.
if that's the will of this committee, I could simply take those bylaws, and rather than trying to sort of you know, just amend our current bylaws, I could take those Oak Park bylaws, rework them so they fit a municipal library and fit our board, and then present that to you guys next month and see what you think.
Okay.
yeah, I think, I mean, how does everybody feel about those?
No, I agree. I thought the same thing, Samantha, with like the purpose and duties of the board. I think that should be first. Just everything we do and everything else in the bylaws follows or should follow from that.
Yes. And I mean, the officers committee, I just like how it's laid out. Like it's very clear. It's not super wordy or, you know, and we obviously have to have our required sections based by law or, you know, or I think we're supposed to have certain things
Yes.
that are required by law. So, I mean,
Yeah, it checks off all the checks off all the boxes.
yeah.
You know, but I think you know, somebody's got a knack up there. I'll have to find out if it's a board member, if it's the director or what. But somebody's got a real knack up there. They're very good at just kind of getting to the gist and adding clarity to things. I'm a fan of their policy work.
Because I mean, our bylaws right now are very like wordy and kind of old fashioned. And I mean, I as a reader, I have a hard time like even paying attention halfway through. So with the Oak Park though, I was reading all of the sentence, you know, like I was just reading every section. So
I think that comes from, you know, and this is something I run into once in a while. You know, I struggle to amend a document when it's easier sometimes to throw it out
start over.
and start over.
Yeah.
And I think we've amended these bylaws half a dozen times in the 7 years I've been here, it seems like. And once was a couple times were big changes, but
That's probably why it looks
we're still trying to take an unsatisfactory document and turn it into a satisfactory one rather than just starting again. And I'm happy to use a model, you know, of somebody.
Yeah, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if this is the wheel we like.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as long as there's no objections to that, I'll work something up based on those and bring them to you guys in April.
Okay. That sounds good.
I'm gonna have to leave in 5 minutes, just so I don't know if that matters, but
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to number 2 then, sexual harassment.
okay.
Yeah, I still don't have, and it's partly my fault. I haven't nudged our attorney, so I nudged him today. And hopefully, I mean, his last opinion that he gave me was he thinks our sexual harassment policy is okay, as is, but he did recommend that we, the next policy, working ahead, Michael, I'm sorry, but the next one is in the same boat, but that's one that,
Okay, that's fine.
that it was a city policy that we just adopted as our own, and he doesn't
Right.
think that's very good practice, and plus they've amended theirs now. So he was supposed to get me something else. So I asked him this, I'd like to have it by the April 1st, meeting.
God, we
Okay.
are in March, aren't we?
Yes, we are in March.
Yeah, April 1st.
I was like, April, what?
Okay, then we're just gonna jump down to number 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the diversity, I can't see, equity and inclusion.
Yes.
Robert?
Really quick, I'll give you an update. We basically, we set a meeting. Actually, I just sent out the email app. I've been getting back the committee's available times and, because they all have prior commitments. So I think we have some good dates that we can meet and actually talk about about the consultant, getting a consultant. Also, I've got a couple of committees, not community, they are community groups that I plan to reach out to. I've already reached out to one. One's the Boys and Girls Club director, and also Kono, and maybe see if they have representatives that are interested. I've been talking to the city about some of this, and interestingly, they wanted us to share some of our information with them, which I thought was pretty good. So some of the work that we've been doing. So definitely like to hear, their input on some of our stuff. And we also reached out to Library Strategies, and Library Strategies, they're the group that did our strategic plan. And I was talking to the director over at Evanston, and she's the one who has been giving me a lot of really good information about their process. And it was actually, they have actually an award-winning process, and they've received some grants for the work that they're doing. And she also said she's working with Library Strategies and their DEI with their efforts. So just do due diligence and get some more input on how we want to go and how our proposal really stacks up, maybe next to some of the other consultants out there. So right now we just have the one proposal, and the library director, she would kind of went through it with me, but it would be kind of interesting to see what our Library Strategies, the people who did our strategic plan, who actually put it in there to begin with, what our goals should be, kind of hear what they have to offer and what they're saying. So we have a Zoom meeting set up with them, I think Tuesday. So far that's where we're at. Oh, and the staff, we have, I think Alyssa, myself, Katie, Tanisha, Carol Zeese, and I think there's, and Susan Bishop. We're in the middle of I think it's a 3-week, this is going on the 3rd week, sort of a conference with Library Journal, a diversity and equity and inclusion conferences, and they're even giving homework and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of fun. Except for the homework part.
Yeah, Tuesday wasn't fun.
Yeah, no.
I got to go back and look at last week's, but Tuesday's was the second lady that was a presenter. She had the most soothing voice I've ever heard, and soothing voices at 2:00 in the afternoon are not really what I need.
But she had some good comments, I think, because she was talking about, right now there's a lot of diversity consultants out there, and some of them, you have to watch the cookie cutter type consultants. And also she said something that really confirmed, that we're doing a good job. It has to start from the top. It has to start from the board. And, Rick and I have had some conversations about, going forward, how we can approach it and what, our strategy should be. and he's just sort of, letting us take the lead, but we definitely are keeping him informed with our efforts. So
Yeah, Kate's gotta go.
yeah.
She's gotta get to another meeting.
Sorry, Robert.
No,
Okay.
it's all good. So it's been
Thanks,
a very good process so far. And I enjoyed the speaker on, I think, Tuesday. Yeah, she says a lot of good things, and and this past, I think it's 2 weeks ago. One of the things Rick and I were talking about is how as far as sometimes it looks like the diversity efforts work to divide people, and they shouldn't be that way, because we're working on an issue. We're working on issues, and it's not about the people. It's not, and one thing that I sent out to the staff was, it was a little history about how important white people are to the diversity efforts and the civil rights efforts, and how one lady actually started the ball rolling in Detroit. I can't think of her name right now, it escapes me. She was killed. She was like the only white lady killed during that particular time in 1965, I think. But she was a champion for civil rights, and her death, I mean, it reached to the president, it reached to the unions. It had the list of people that attended her funeral, was like a who's who for that time. So
Wow.
it's not about, just basically, putting one group of people under fire. It's about the issue that should come under fire.
Good.
Great, Robert. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sounds like you're busy at it. That's good. All
A
right.
lot of things to read.
Yeah. Rick, do we have any other?